entire beautiful Middle East.
The first images of those 20 Israeli hostages turned over as family members cried and crowds by the tens of thousands erupted in applause.
It took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it?
You know what's really unbelievable is that was 2 days ago, and you would be hard-pressed to find a single mention of it, a single follow-up story on one of the most historic events in any of our lifetimes, the peace deal between Israel and Hamas, the returning of hostages held for 2 years. That was 2 days ago, and it's almost like the national press just forgot. Or more accurately stated, the national press wants you to forget. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Dan O'Donnell Show. It is a tour de force of truth, combating national and local media lies. And if you would like to join it, 414-799-1130 is the adventknows.com talk and text line. Reach me toll free, 1-800-838-9. 9476. Email me, dod@iheartmedia.com. Follow us on social and watch the show streaming live via the Dan O'Cam at Dan O'Donnell Show on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on our YouTube channel. Please do subscribe as well to the Dan O'Donnell Show podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fall Fortune Cash Contest word this hour, check, CHECK, check. You have got until 55 past the hour, or if you will, you have got until 5 to the next hour to go to our website and enter the keyword check. If your entry is picked at random, we send you a check in the amount of $1,000. President Trump holding a joint news conference with his FBI director, Kash Patel, to announce huge news on crime statistics. This summer was the least violent in America in at least 20 years. And the president and Patel are taking a victory lap. President Trump is now taking questions from reporters. Let's go now to President Trump in that news conference.
I think that President Putin, I think he wants to get it done. We'll see. There's a great animosity between him and Zelensky. You probably have noticed, right? And I think it's hurting the process. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you. Curious, why did you authorize the CIA to go into Venezuela? And is there more information you can share about these strikes on the alleged?
Well, I can't do that, but I authorized for two reasons, really. Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. They came in through the border. They came in because we had an open border policy. And as soon as I heard that, I said, a lot of these countries, they're not the only country, but they're the worst abuser. And they've allowed thousands and thousands of prisoners, mental institution, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, emptied out into the United States. We're bringing them back, but that's a really bad. And they did it at a level that probably not many countries have done it, but not like Venezuela. They were down and dirty. And the other thing are drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela, and a lot of the Venezuelan drugs come in through the sea. So you get to see that, but we're going to stop them by land also.
That is President Trump talking to reporters. You know what? Let's go back to this.
For me to be given. Not really a ridiculous question, but wouldn't it be a ridiculous question for me to answer? But I think Venezuela is feeling heat, but I think a lot of other countries are feeling heat too. We're not going to let this country, our country, be ruined because other people want to drop, as you say, their worst. They have given us their worst. They've loaded up our country with prisoners, with mentally ill people that are seriously ill, criminally ill, and we're not going to take it. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things. And I can tell you, we've taken care of the sea. There's nobody. We're watching. And if we see it, we'll save it. Yeah, please.
On the ships, though, sir, there are Republicans and Democrats up on the Hill concerned that in the briefings they've gotten about those attacks, they're not necessarily getting information about who was on them and what exactly was on those ships. Can you ensure that?
But they are given information that they were loaded up with drugs, and that's the thing that matters. When they're loaded up with drugs, they're fair game. And every one of those ships they're not ships, they're boats, they're speedboats. They're extremely fast, record-setting type speedboats that cost a lot of money, and they have a lot of money because they're drug sellers. But they know one thing, and they all have the same thing in common. There's drug dust. They call it drug dust. They call it fentanyl dust all over the boat after those bombs go off, and you can take along.
Attack them though that they're.
We know when they go out. We know we have much information about each boat that goes out. Deep, strong information. Yeah, please.
So you're going to have Vladimir Zelensky here this week.
All right, they're going back to Russia. I wanted to keep it on the CIA Venezuela question. We can pot that down, producer Eric. Thank you very much. The questions were coming from, I believe that was Peter Alexander of NBC News, who is asking about the constitutionality of the president authorizing strikes on drug cartel boats. Well, this is part of the reason that the president declared that drug cartels are terrorist enemies of the United States, because this is an authorized strike, provided that there is intelligence that these aren't, merchant marine or fishing vessels, that they are in fact being used to transport fentanyl and other drugs into the United States. As you heard the president say, there is, of course, intelligence to suggest that the United States Navy is not just taking out random boats coming out of Caracas. It is taking out boats that we have credible evidence to suggest that they are, in fact, transporting deadly drugs to the United States. Okay, we will have much more on President Trump's press conference, those crime numbers, the government shutdown, and more in the 4 o'clock hour. It is our daily segment, the Daily Trump Date, keeping you updated on all things Trump to start your 4 o'clock hour. At the end of this hour, one of the most deranged Trump haters from the first term, well, she is back with a little good old-fashioned election denial. The unhinged liberal of the day coming up at the tail end of this hour. We start, though, with Democrats in the Wisconsin legislature just being completely unable to put politics aside. And on the day yesterday, that would have been Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday, the day that President Trump gave him a posthumous Presidential Medal of Freedom, Democrats just could not bring themselves to condemn political violence in a joint resolution with the state assembly and the state senate and honor the life of somebody who, whether you liked him or agreed with him or not, got millions of young people engaged in the political process. Not a single Democrat in the state Senate voted for that resolution, and the only Democrat in the state assembly who voted for it is Milwaukee Rep. Sylvia Ortiz Velez. A couple of weeks ago, we reported exclusively on what we initially were having a lot of fun with and calling it the Great Hispanic Democrat Caucus catfight. Remember, Sylvia Ortiz Velez and another representative whose name is on the tip of my tongue and can't remember right now. We're just going at it in social media and in reply all emails. We had a lot of fun with it until Democrats, led by their minority leader, Greta Neubauer, actually expelled Ortiz Velez from the Capitol by pretending that she made a death threat, pretending that she made a violent threat against other Democrats, when in actuality, she was saying something to the effect of, oh, if you bring a knife to a gunfight, I'll bring an AR-15. It's clear it's a figure of speech, and there was nothing to suggest within the context of that conversation that there was any violent threat. In fact, the Capitol Police investigated and said, are you people nuts? There's no threat. But she actually had her security clearance revoked by the state Capitol HR department until the Capitol Police intervened. And then finally, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said, okay, are you people insane? Obviously, Sylvia Ortiz Velez did not threaten anybody with an AR-15, but that's apparently how Wisconsin Democrats roll. If you go against them on something as benign as what Sylvia Ortiz Velez went against them on, declaring Hispanic Heritage Month here in Wisconsin, or a symbolic resolution standing together against political violence and in support of the memory of someone who you might not have necessarily disagreed with, Democrats simply cannot do it. And before you say, well, Dan, would Republicans ever do something similar? Yes, in fact, attack, they would. In fact, every single Republican in the United States House of Representatives signed on to a resolution condemning the political assassination of Melissa Hortman, as well as her husband. She, of course, was the Minnesota state senator who was gunned down in what was revealed to be not a political attack at all, but the deranged revenge fantasy of a psychopath who truly believed that he was acting on orders from Governor Tim Walz, the Democrat governor. He said in a letter to FBI's Director Kash Patel that Tim wants to be governor and I need to kill both of Minnesota's U.S. senators. Tim wants to be senator, rather. And Minnesota has two Democrat senators, Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar. So I need to kill them both so that Tim can be senator. He'll deny this, but I am in grave danger. I need to act fast. The man was clearly insane. Every single Democrat in the House of Representatives voted for that resolution. Not surprising, right? Melissa Hortman was a Democrat. But every single Republican also voted for that resolution, standing together with Democrats and saying political violence of any kind is wrong. Yesterday on the floor of the Wisconsin state legislature, Wisconsin Democrats simply could not do the same for Charlie Kirk. Dora Drake, a state senator, actually got up and compared Kirk to, of all people, noted Democrat segregationist George Wallace.
If Charlie devoted his life to God, he did not care for all of God's children. And as a believer, I have a problem when people like to pick and choose values and principles of our faith to uphold their own political agendas for power and control because of who the person is. And if faith is a thing, the words that he shared clearly did not reflect that he cared for all Americans. His assassination has been followed with calls of violent retribution from his followers, which only fuels the tensions that put many in our nation at risk.
Okay, it has been almost 24 hours since we first played this soundbite. We got this sent to us by a source at the Capitol right after she said this, and we sort of closed the show with this. It's been 22 hours now. I have yet to find a single example, and I said very publicly, I am challenging Senator Drake to provide me a single example of one of Charlie Kirk's followers calling for violent retribution or revenge killings for his death. That's a flat out lie. That is misinformation being spread on the floor of the state capitol, of the state legislature, so that Democrats can get away with not voting for a resolution condemning political violence. Drake went on.
So when history looks back to talk about his life, he will not be compared to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Abraham Lincoln. He will be compared to the likes of Senator Joe McCarthy and George Wallace, where he chose to divide and target Americans rather than bring us together.
Okay, I'm still not exactly sure where the Joseph McCarthy comparison comes in. Clearly, given the context of her short little speech there, she was talking about Charlie Kirk being a racist. She, of course, talked about the taken out of context quotes of Charlie Kirk supposedly saying that black women lack the cranial capacity that white men do, when in fact it was a complete lie. It was completely taken out of context. He was saying this in the context of DEI with three specific black women, one of whom happened to be Michelle Obama, the former first lady, said, without DEI, I wouldn't have ever gotten into law school. I wouldn't be where I was. The other was Joy Reid, who said, look, without DEI, I wouldn't be where I was. So Charlie said, look, those women who are admitting that they lack the mental capacity that other more qualified applicants to the schools that they went to or to the jobs that they eventually got, they were more qualified. Without DEI, they took the spot that was otherwise going to go to a more qualified, presumably white male. That is by their own admission. That also is the major problem with affirmative action and DEI programs is you always sort of wonder, is this person actually qualified? I mean, I've always maintained that the massive problem, and it is an inescapable problem for the left, that DEI and affirmative action have always been presuppositions that people based on nothing but the color of their skin need an extra leg up because they are somehow less qualified than our white male applicants. Also, Kaylin Haywood, Democrat state representative, stood up to recite more out of context quotes from Charlie Kirk to try to make the case that Republicans were only honoring him because their bosses at Fox News told them to.
But I'll read you some quotes. Quote 1, if I'm dealing with someone in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder is she there because of her excellence or is she there because of affirmative action? The Charlie Kirk Show, January 3rd, 2024. Quote number 2. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. The Charlie Kirk Show, January 23rd, 2024. We made a huge mistake. Sorry, this is quote 3. We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s. Charlie Kirk at America Fest, December 2023.
That was actually the biggest, most pernicious lie, which I can explain in depth if you'd really like. He did not mean that there would be equal opportunity for black people who were just not getting that in the, I will remind you, Democrat-controlled South in the pre-civil rights era. It's that the act itself was a dramatic government overreach. This has been a conservative and libertarian critique of it since its passage in the mid-1960s, but Haywood goes on.
These are quotes from Charlie Kirk, who was not a Wisconsinite, nor had any meaningful ties to our great state or any contributions to our state. And yet you are using his name and his death to score political points for Fox News and your far-right donors.
Okay, first of all, as someone who speaks into a microphone every single day, I'm going to give Mr. Haywood a little bit of a tip here. Do not breathe directly into the mic. You got to put the mic a little bit farther away from your mouth, Representative Haywood. He sounded like Darth Vader reading off all of that. All of those quotes were taken out of context, but this idea somehow that Charlie Kirk had no meaningful impact on Wisconsin. I'm sorry, how many schools have Turning Point chapters at them? How many people watched or listened to Charlie Kirk every single day? Fortunately, as asinine as Democrats behaved over this resolution, there were Republicans standing up to remind them what ultimately this resolution was about. And that is a showing that we could actually stand together against political violence, because just as the President Trump victory in Middle East peace just 2 days ago has been memory hold, the assassination of Charlie Kirk has really been memory hold. You cannot find a reference to it in mainstream media. In fact, they're even going so far as to drop a Politico story about a bunch of losers in the Young Republicans who have no power within the Republican Party at all. It's like a social club. It's a political club telling awful edgelord jokes in a group chat. They deliberately ran that story on the day that Charlie Kirk was going to get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, so that they could make the case that, first of all, they could talk about that instead of the Charlie Kirk ceremony and remind people, oh yeah, this guy was assassinated by a deranged evil leftist because he dared to speak up on a college campus. They could say, well, look at, these are all Charlie Kirk fans, and look at all the terrible stuff that they're saying. It also allowed, well, you know what, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit greater depth a little bit later on in this hour. But they did not want people to remember what Charlie Kirk's assassination on a deeper level actually meant. And that was the out of control left-wing violence and the desperate attempt to shut people up who disagree by any means necessary, including murder, the normalization of that, as evidenced by the hundreds of thousands of people who within the first hour, we have stats now from Reddit, hundreds of people on Reddit within an hour were saying things about Charlie Kirk's assassination, such as rest in slang term for urine that ends in ISS, kind of sounds like peace. I know I can probably say it on the radio, but there are a lot of kids in the car right now getting picked up from school, so I'm not going to. Yes, I think, yes, producer Eric, I think they have figured it out. They said good riddance at least 300 times within an hour after Charlie Kirk was shot. Good riddance, rest in you know what, and mockingly saying thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. The normalization of political violence and the celebration of political violence is a cancer on this country, and it is being spearheaded by an increasingly radicalized left. And fortunately, Wisconsin has Republicans like Representative Nate Gustafson, who stood up on the floor of the assembly yesterday to talk about what the Charlie Kirk resolution was really about.
Today, we obviously honor the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. For a lot of us young, especially on the conservative side, looked up to him, especially as kind of a figurehead that really brought us back to a spot of civility in society, and really, again, brought us to the point of obviously agreeing that political violence has no place in society. There was only a month ago that obviously the incident happened where he was assassinated, and you think that society would find a turning point, as you will, to change how we reflect our beliefs and how we actually go about discussing the issues of the day. But it was as recent as just this past weekend, right in my home county, Winnebago County, there was an incident about bracelets that said, "Is he dead yet?" In reference to another political head, obviously, that we all know who they're talking about. So our vigilance doesn't stop a month ago, doesn't stop today. It stops when political violence actually stops. And so we have to all do our part. And today was a somber reminder of why we all need to stand together and stop political violence. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Democrats refused to stand at all. Coming up in just 3 minutes, Vice President J.D. Vance weighs in on this in comments you simply have to hear.
Classical conservatism. Contemporary style. This is the Dan O'Donnell Show.
Hey, I am Brant, and her name is Sherry, and she's a friend and a colleague of mine, and we were just praying for her, actually, because she had a major surgery she just went through.
Yes, and I am very happy about something you actually talk about all the time, which is Medishare. That's right.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like with Medishare and your healthcare bills?
You know what? It was seamless, and that's such a blessing when you're already nervous about a health issue, which I was.
Yeah.
Members shared my expenses. There were zero problems, and let me tell you, having people pray with you when you call in, and it's just what you need. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling people. People love Medishare and saving tons of money. The typical family, I'm fond of saying, could save $500 a month.
I am so thankful for Medishare. It's so different. And I mean different in a very, very good way, Brant.
It is a good different. Call right now. They're so easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 866-89-BIBLE. That's 866-89-BIBLE. 866-89-BIBLE.
Hello?
Mr. Hoban?
Yes.
Hi, this is Amy from First American Bank. I got your message that you called, and I'm calling you right back.
Okay, I'll hold.
Oh, I'm not putting you on hold.
I'll just finish my tuna fish sandwich here and stay on hold until you get back to me.
No, Mr. Hoban.
Can you make it before the end of the day, though? I have a gentle yoga class at 7.
Mr. Hoban, are you new to First American Bank?
Yeah, I figured you got to be better than the big bank I was at. But I'm ready to hold now.
Mr. Hoban, I'm not putting you on hold.
What?
First American Bank is built on superb customer service. Huh. So besides offering the best loan deals in town, cash management service, and more, if we can't take your call right away, we call you back as soon as possible. First American Bank thinks of it as treating our customers like family. You treat your family with consideration and respect, right?
Can you put me on hold while I think about that?
Mr. Hoban.
First American Bank, the bank that does more for your money. Visit firstambank.com. or call us at 262-577-2400. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, Dan O'Donnell for Mander Collision and Glass, now with 7 locations to serve you across the greater Milwaukee area. Start your repair right now at mandercollision.com. Mander truly is the best decision after a collision.
Believe it or not, it's been 6 months since tax day. It's time to start taking a look at your plan. Fortunately, we're still in a window of time where you can review, strategize, and make many changes to your 2025 tax plan. But the days are going by quickly. The team here at Annex Wealth Management can help. Our tax and retirement specialists can review your goals and your current situation and walk through options that might build confidence on where you're headed. Contact Annex Wealth Management today.
Make News Talk 1130 WISN your number one preset on our free iHeartRadio app, powered by Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
Injured?
Remember, one call, that's all.
Conservative thought, not just talk. You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show.
The Charlie Kirk Show is going on without Charlie Kirk, who was murdered in cold blood a month and 5 days ago at Utah Valley University by a deranged liberal who was upset because Charlie was such a bigot. At least that's what he wrote in a note to his and text to his transgender boyfriend. Charlie Kirk Show is at the White House yesterday and today, obviously, as Charlie posthumously received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And one of the guests today was Vice President J.D. Vance, who talked about just what a massive problem violence and the justification of political violence is on the left.
You have to acknowledge the problem before you can actually solve it. And right now you have a number of people who actually think words are violence. And if words are violence, then one reasonable response to people saying things you don't like is to kill them. And we have to just completely reject that in the United States of America. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get out there to Ole Miss to go and do this, because I think that engagement really matters. And it's not most people, right? This is the good news. It's not most people who think that Charlie, meaning most people on the left who think that Charlie deserved to die because they said something that they had disagreed with or that they even found offensive. But it is a large enough and powerful enough minority. It's pretty well funded. There's a lot of resources behind it. There are a lot of powerful media voices behind it. And it is, I think, the most significant domestic problem we have in the United States of America is this justification of violence, which then, of course, leads to the real thing.
I, of course, wholeheartedly agree. In fact, I've been saying this for quite some time now, long before Charlie was assassinated. I think we started on this in earnest most recently following the assassination in December of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and the assassin who was glorified, who was lionized in some segments of the political left because he struck a blow against the bourgeoisie and capitalism itself. And oh my goodness, it's okay. See, what you had back then was the justification because healthcare costs are so high. And we played, I remember we put together a montage of Elizabeth Warren, AOC, I think Bernie Sanders, other radicalized left-wingers saying, look, when you push people this far because healthcare costs are just so high, we can't justify if they commit murder, but you can almost understand how they're so angry, how they're so desperate, how they are going to kill an innocent man. It is a truly warped thinking. But we saw it really in earnest with the assassin's justification for killing Charlie Kirk, saying there is some hate that you just can't negotiate out, or you just can't argue out, or you just can't talk out. I forget what the exact quote was, but that's sort of the baseline understanding of this new radicalized left, that there is some hate, and hate is defined as speech that we disagree with, which, as the vice president said, is actually violence perpetrated against innocent, vulnerable peoples. You see the language they intentionally use. I guarantee there is somebody listening to me right now talk about this saying Dan O'Donnell is committing violence against people by talking about the violence committed, the actual violence committed by deranged leftists. It creates, as Ben Shapiro has said, a permission structure for the truly mentally ill and black-hearted evil people among the radicalized base to take this extreme action. This is what Vance says this almost invariably leads to.
Real unity comes from acknowledging the reality of the situation that we're in, right? Unity requires everybody being on the same page, having some commonality of values. And real unity requires us to acknowledge the fact that while, yes, there are crazies on both sides, we have a country of 330 million people, you're going to be able to find crazies on either side. Political violence is just a statistical fact. It's a bigger problem on the left. And if you had, God forbid, somebody on the left who was assassinated, I'm sure that you could find one person who would maybe celebrate it or one person who would be offensive. But the fact that it became mainstream to celebrate Charlie's death, to talk about the fact that he maybe deserved to die because he had said hateful things like, we don't want women playing, or we don't want men playing in women's sports. Just the effort to try to justify his murder, to lie about things that he had said, so as to justify his killing. It was just really disgusting and really disgraceful. And one of the things that we just have to, I want our country to be unified again. I really do. I mean, I'm the Vice President of the United States. I really do feel like I represent every single person, even the people who say disgusting things. But if we're going to have real unity in this country, we're all going to have to acknowledge that killing people for what they think and what they believe is wrong. And right now, that violent impulse is a bigger problem on the left than the right.
I would argue that it's always been a bigger problem on the left than it is on the right. The only way that the left has been able to even try to claim that they're in the same ballpark is by having Islamist terrorism lumped in with right-wing violence in some of the Southern Poverty Law Center studies of this sort of thing. It is a massive problem. And because, for example, I mentioned this Politico story. I'm sure if you have turned on the news at all in the last 24 hours, you have heard about this. A Telegram chat leaked from leaders of the Young Republicans across the country. To my knowledge, there were no Wisconsin leaders of Young Republicans on this Telegram chat saying awful things, but they were making what were obviously just horrible, offensive jokes, saying they loved Hitler, saying that just all sorts of terrible things. The difference is every single Republican who has been asked about this has condemned it, saying this is inappropriate. Every one of these people should be removed from leadership of Young Republicans, if not kicked out of the organization altogether. This is not who we stand for. This is not what we stand for. This is not who we are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Name me one Democrat who has called for Jay Jones, the attorney general candidate in Virginia, who stands for election in about 3 weeks, to step down, to abandon his campaign. Not one. Not one. In a private text that was leaked, he openly fantasized about murdering the then Speaker of the Virginia House of Representatives, as well as his children, because they're little fascists and their parents need to be made to care about issues such as gun control. You even see a difference there. The Young Republicans were making admittedly horrible, awful, terrible jokes. Every single Republican who has been asked about it, and this is the difference in the media, you will have Dan Bice sticking a microphone, sticking a recorder in the face of Ron Johnson and every other Republican to ask them about the Young Republicans, but never, ever, 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 ever ask Wisconsin Democrats about Jay Jones or all of the crazies celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk or Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO. That creates the permission structure for this sort of abhorrent behavior, because far too many Democrats truly believe that all of us on the right are Nazis, are fascists. Ergo, because our belief structure is so terrible, it is so awful, anything is fair game. The implicit threat in that is violence as well. You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show. Conservative thought, not just talk.
Gold is is at an all-time high, so now's the smart time to turn your unwanted gold, silver, or diamonds into cash at Robert Hack Diamonds. Old class rings, broken chains, even dental gold or silver flatware could be worth more than you think. Sit down with a trusted expert for a no-pressure cash offer. They've treated clients with dignity and fairness for over 64 years. If in doubt, bring it in. It's not just about gold, it's about trust. Robert Hack Diamonds, 146th and Greenfield Avenue in Brookfield and 76th and Layton in Greenfield.
Bob built a brand over the same 20 years INET has. I bought multiple properties over those years. Bob gets real estate like I never will.
In real estate, every brokerage does the same thing. MLS. Adding auction bidding to MLS, I knew if INET branded it, told our story, home sellers would understand and accept this real estate revolutionizing platform.
You can be the best in your industry like Redefined Realty is. Even revolutionize your industry like Redefined Realty has with auction. Yet, it's your story that sells.
You can't tell your story as well as INET Creative Genius will tell your story.
Real estate for winners is exactly what Redefined Realty and auction has always been.
Steven knocked our brand and marketing out of the park.
Selling a home? If you don't use Redefine's MLS and auction platform, you'll leave closing with less money than you would have. Tragic and that simple.
Websites, branding, design, video, and radio. INET is improving marketing for winners.
INETJustWork.com.
CreativeGeniusMarketing.com.
Real estate for winners. RedefinedRealty.com.
Tune in every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. as Ellen Becker Investment Group highlights local people and organizations who are using their time and their talents to give back to make a difference in our community. Milwaukee's philanthropic community. Visit ellenbecker.com to learn more.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. If you're living with a chronic condition like diabetes, chronic heart failure, or a cardiovascular disorder, you might count on extra support with your healthcare too. That's why United Healthcare offers chronic special needs plans with extra benefits and a large provider network to choose from. Visit uhc.com/Medicare to find out if you qualify today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Wisconsin can count on. Provider network may vary in local market.
911, what's your emergency?
My kitchen is killing me. My kitchen, it's awful. I'm literally dying. I hate it so much.
It's okay, ma'am. I have NARI officers en route. They will transport you directly to the NARI Home Show to find a remodeler.
NARI?
Yes, NARI. NARI members are the best in the industry. They will save you.
Hire a pro, not a con. October 17th through 19th at State Fair Park. Visit NARIMilwaukee.org for details.
We use powerful truck-mounted carpet cleaning units designed to remove even the toughest dirt, and certified cleaning technicians who understand the definition of clean.
Edelman Carpet, Furniture, and Drapery Cleaning.
It's Edelman again. Edelman.
I'm attorney Tom Grieve with Divergent Family Law, here to talk about facts and myths about divorce. Do you think as long as you play nice, so will your spouse? That's a myth. Many divorces start that way, but before you know it, one disagreement unravels everything you previously thought was settled. Have you heard it's cheaper to get divorced without an attorney? That's a myth. It's not. The assets lost by not knowing what you are legally entitled to are much more costly than an attorney. Have you heard attorneys bill by the minute and will waste time so that they can charge you more? At Divergent Family Law, that's a myth. We offer free consultations for divorce and provide you with a flat quote for representation. You won't have to wonder what you'll get charged. The facts are you'll get your best possible outcome when you have an experienced attorney at your side. Our attorneys have seen it all. They know the laws and they know the judges. They'll make sure that you get your fair share or better. Contact us today at divergentfamilylaw.com.
Jay here with a few stories from Engine and Transmission Exchange customers who had to be given the bad news, but appreciated the honesty from Vince and his ETE technicians. Jimmy Ray's 2002 Honda Odyssey had given its last ride, and he says Oscar gave me a printout showing me why. Erica was smart enough to use ETE as a fail-safe when she bought a used car for her daughter. They had a 3-day window to return it if they changed their mind, so Erica took it over to Engine and Transmission Exchange to give it the once-over. A few hours later, Al called her to say that this new used car had a bad transmission, thousands to replace, so she and her daughter got their money back. You simply can't put a price on the sort of experience, honesty, and integrity you'll encounter at Engine and Transmission Exchange. All of your work will be done by ASE certified technicians. They'll only do what needs to be done, and yes, they'll make sure you aren't dumping good money after bad. See enginetrans.com for details. Enginetrans.com. It's Engine and Transmission Exchange.
Step inside your 3-pound universe, your brain. I'm David Eagleman, and this season on Inner Cosmos,
we'll uncover how politics, AI, and the future of our species all emerge from our brains. Why does time stretch? Why does nostalgia ache? How do memory glitches, culture, and technology shape who we are? If you're ready to discover more about yourself and understand the world around you, open your free iHeartRadio app, search Inner Cosmos, and listen now.
Injured? Call Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
Opinion, emotion, passion. This is News Talk 1130 WISN. 40 years ago, being informed was about reading the newspaper and watching the nightly news. Now, with information coming at you at the speed of light, being truly informed is a complex proposition, a more comprehensive process. At WISN, our show hosts frame stories, issues, and topics with both facts and unique analysis. And that leaves you with a richer understanding of the world around you. It's the perfect blend of information and insight. Stay informed all day, every day on WISN. Now,
back to the Dan O'Donnell
So Democrats in the state legislature could not be bothered to do an honorary resolution condemning political violence and honoring the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Guess what they did have time to do? Demand the release of the Epstein files, because they are really on top of the issues that matter to Wisconsinites. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we normally save this for the very end of the 3 o'clock hour, but I am just so excited for today's Unhinged Liberal of the Day. This is a return to unhinged liberalism. This is sort of like the day where Michael Jordan faxed that 2-word statement to the NBA, "I'm back." This is what it feels like for me. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, the triumphant return of today's Unhinged Liberal of the Day.
Make me crazy.
Trump is Hitler.
We are in pre-Nazi Germany. Make me crazy.
All white people are racist.
Trump is dangerous because he's evil. America is over.
She's been quiet for a few years. In fact, she has been quiet, it seems, for too long. She was one of the loudest anti-Trump voices in the first Trump term, and she gained a whole lot of notoriety. You talk about a permission structure for political violence, for posing with a bloody severed Trump head. She is back, ladies and gentlemen. Kathy Griffin is your Unhinged Liberal of the Day. In a 1-minute screed posted to her social media yesterday, she not only called Trump a fascist, dropped an F-bomb, but also denied that he legitimately won the 2024 election. It is a masterpiece of unhinged liberalism that simply has to be heard to be fully appreciated.
People are calling this protest the No King's Day because Trump thinks he's a fucking king. And, you know, he's not. He's barely a president. In fact, guess what? I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble. I don't think he won in a free and fair election. You heard me. I'm coming up and saying it myself. I don't care if that means I look crazy, because Elon Musk, who's this other Nazi guy running around town who owns X, and a lot of people think he's a genius, but he's not. He's like a fake genius. Anyway, he's a professional Nazi, in my humble opinion. And he's good friends with Trump. And at one point, I don't know if you remember, but he was giving out $1 million checks to people if they would vote for Trump. That's illegal. It's unconstitutional and illegal. So that was happening. And the fact that Trump won all 7 swing states, which has never happened in the history of the U.S., makes it all very suspicious to me. So there, I said it.
So suspicious. It couldn't possibly be that Trump was very popular this time around and that Kamala Harris did not, in fact, lose the closest election in modern history. No! It's an illegitimate election. How how I've missed you, Kathy. Take that entire quote, frame it, hang it in the Louvre. Kathy Griffin is back, and it does not get better than that. She is your unhinged liberal of the day. Remember how back in the old days of social media censorship, if you dared to say that the 2020 election was not totally on the up and up, you would be booted off of social media. In fact, I remember very vividly doing an interview in the summer of 2022, maybe it was the spring of 2022, with Republican gubernatorial candidate Rebecca Clayfish. And I, perhaps more than any other, well, I can tell you definitely more than any other investigative reporter, found actual evidence of actual voter fraud and actual irregularities perpetuated by actual Democrats who were actually in charge of administering the election. And we were talking about that, and Clayfish referenced the very real, very criminal way that the city of Green Bay administered the 2020 presidential election. Even though she is a candidate for office, even though I was a news station, news source, allowing her to speak, and the people of Wisconsin clearly need to hear her speak in order to make an informed decision about who they were going to vote for governor in 2022, my YouTube channel was booted off. I think I got suspended for 2 months, something like that. At one point, I threw my hands up. I gave up and said, look, I am just not going to be able to stream this show on YouTube because every single thing that I say is going to get me suspended. I think at one point I was down to my last strike. And isn't it weird? It was never something I said. I would have Ron Johnson on, and Ron Johnson would talk about the COVID vaccine or masks or something like that. Sitting United States Senator, also running for re-election in 2022. This was also in 2022. And he would say something about the COVID vaccine, and my channel would get shut down. I was down to my last strike where my entire YouTube account would be shut down. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to fight this anymore. It was an incredible form of censorship. It was a great way that the political left could use its ties to social media companies and also use actual political coercion and legal coercion through the use of the Justice Department, specifically the FBI, policing speech at these social media companies to silence the opposition, just for saying exactly what social media is perfectly fine with Kathy Griffin saying. And more importantly, because frankly, I have no problem with Kathy Griffin being able to say the 2024 election was rigged. I just have spent 6 minutes making fun of Kathy Griffin for saying the 2024 election was rigged. But Democrats are perfectly fine with that. And you'll recall every single Democrat in the universe was saying Trump was an illegitimate president in 2016. Then all of a sudden, they effectively criminalized questioning elections in 2020. The narrative was it's impossible to cheat in a presidential election. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes right here on the Dan O'Donnell Show. Don't go anywhere.
From the Lynch Buick GMC of West Bend Total Traffic Center.
In Waukesha, southbound Oakdale Drive shut down from Les Paul Parkway to River Point Boulevard with an accident. 94 westbound stall on the right shoulder past 35th. Stalled truck off to the left at the zoo. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
This is Lee Habib, host of Our American Stories. On our next episode, we'll share the story of the mountain man who opened up the American West, Jedediah Smith. You won't want to miss the next episode of Our American Stories.
When starting a new home project, the first step is the hardest to take. Hi, Colleen here with Tri-County Contracting. And with Tri-County Contracting, the first step is super easy. Go to TriCountyContractingWI.com. You can fill out a short form requesting a free estimate. Amanda will give you a call and schedule a no-pressure appointment with you. Whether it's roofing, siding, windows, or all of the above, we have you covered. If you are looking for an even faster roof price, we also have our Instant Roof Quote button. Name, address, and email address. and you have your price on the spot. Easy first step. Then, all the steps after that, we'll take care of those for you. Getting you an easy-to-read, clear proposal quickly comes next. Then we can help you pick colors using our showroom or project map on our website. We pull the permits, we take care of materials and disposal. Our trained and specialized crews and project managers take care of all the install and cleanup. For you, it's as easy as one step, and that step is easy. Worry-free roofing, siding, and windows. Tri-County Contracting.
Hey, Wisconsin, Jerry Bott here. When you're shopping for a new vehicle, it's common for uneasiness to set in. Am I getting the best deal? Am I getting what I'm paying for? At Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac, those questions just melt away. Holiday is proudly staffed by very nice, straight-shooting automotive professionals who are refreshingly direct and completely transparent. I'm a fan of that, and you will be too.
Gear up now during the truck season sale at Holiday in Fond du Lac and get more truck or SUV for your buck, more for your trade, and enjoy vehicle shopping that's fun, simple, and pressure-free. Stack enticing offers on top of Holiday's low simplified price on a new Chevrolet, Buick, or GMC, and check out the deep model year-end savings on remaining 2025s. With the weather right and fall trips ahead, the time is right to find yours and discover the difference during the truck season sale on now at Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac and at holidaygm.com.
It's worth the trip.
I'm Victor Harding, a true trial attorney at Warshevsky Law. You've heard our advertising for years. While it's been effective introducing Warshevsky to injured people in need of maximum judgments and settlements, most of our clients come from personal referral. Referrals from former clients grateful for the settlement or trial judgment Warshevsky won on their behalf. Thus, they're recommending us to friends and family. Referrals from people in the community, including other lawyers and judges who want to make sure their friends and family are taken care of. Still not sure? Ask around. Warshevsky is referred by Wisconsin law enforcement officers who've seen Warshevsky attorneys in action, desperate to make sure friends and family receive just compensation. Insurance adjusters, often our adversaries, refer their family members hurt in accidents. They know the work we do. They all refer Warshevsky because big case or small, we can help. If someone you love is injured, please let them know, because at the end of their ordeal, their injury is about the money. Warshevsky.com.
It's 5 words no one wants to hear. You need a new roof. Oh boy, who do you call? How are you going to pay for it? Hi, it's Jay, and these are all questions that run through people's minds when they hear those 5 words. But if you pick up the phone and call Semperfi Roofing, your new roof will be the easiest, most hassle-free home improvement project you'll do. Semperfi has thousands of 5-star ratings for both customer service and high-quality installation. Plus, they offer a 50-year leak-free guarantee on every roof they install. 50 years. Also, since no one wants to pay these high interest rates, for a limited time, Semperfi is offering 5-year no-interest financing with minimum monthly payments for qualified buyers. So if you need a new roof, don't stress. Semperfi Roofing has got your back. It all starts with a free 21-point roof inspection to assess the exact condition of your roof and what needs to be done next. Set up your inspection today. 262-600-2910. That's 600-2910. Or go online to semperfiroofing.com.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semperfi. Your home cleaning friend. It's Edelman again. Edelman.
WISN. Big taxers, big spenders, political cronies, global warming alarmists, charlatans, liars, scam artists, and feeders at the public trough. The threats to your happiness are many, but that's where we can help. News Talk 1130 WISN. Our truth shall keep you free.
Welcome back to the Dan O'Donnell Show. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, your daily Trump date. Plus, what were Democrats in the state legislature focused on instead of coming together to condemn political violence? Why dividing the country by keeping the Jeffrey Epstein story alive? Of course, all that and more when the Dan O'Donnell Show returns.
All All programs on News Talk 1130 WISN are broadcast through the Annex Wealth Management Studios. Annex Wealth Management. Know the difference. Listen to Sean Hannity. Weekday evenings 6 to 9 on News Talk 1130 WISN, Milwaukee. And make WISN the #1 preset on your car radio and on the new iHeart app. Free never sounded so good.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Michaels with Deer and Rut. The Wisconsin DOT is advising caution on the road this time of year.
According to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, over 17,000 crashes involving deer happened in the state last year, with more than a third occurring during the October and November mating season for deer. Those wrecks resulted in 9 deaths and 707 being injured. Ted Allen, Wisconsin Radio Network.
U.S. service members did receive a paycheck today, despite the ongoing government shutdown.
The White House Budget Office is tapping into $8 billion of unspent research and development funding to continue paying members of the U.S. military. Troops and Coast Guardsmen are paid on the 1st and 15th of each month, but historically have missed paychecks along with all other federal workers during government shutdowns. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
And there's a change near the top at Milwaukee Public Schools.
The athletic commissioner, Bobby Kelsey, is no longer with the district. This comes nearly a year after a paperwork error disqualified 2 high schools from the football playoffs. MPS says Bill Molbeck will take over some responsibilities of the role.
Checking the Holiday Automotive of Fond du Lac Sports Scoreboard, Game 3 of the American League Championship Series tonight between the Blue Jays and Mariners. The Brewers are in L.A. tomorrow night to play the Dodgers. First pitch, 5:08. From the Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin News Center, I'm Dave Michaels on Wisconsin's most listened to radio station, News Talk 1130 WISN.
Here's the latest from the Fox 6 Weather Deck.
Cloudy and cool this afternoon with high temperatures staying in the 50s. Clouds stick around tonight and Thursday with a chance for light showers by Thursday evening. Warmer on Friday with highs in the 70s, then rain chances return over the weekend. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Stephanie Barrichello.
This report is sponsored by Grand Appliance. Shop the 95th anniversary sale at Grand Appliance for unbeatable prices and exclusive savings on top appliance brands like GE, Cafe, and more. Visit grandappliance.com or your local Grand showroom for complete details. That's Grand Appliance, appliance experts since 1930.
Hey, I am Brant, and her name is Sherry, and she's a friend and a colleague of mine, and we were just praying for her, actually, because she had a major surgery she just went through.
Yes, and I am very happy about something you actually talk about all the time, which is Medishare. That's right.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like with Medishare and your healthcare bills?
You know what? It was seamless, and that's such a blessing when you're already nervous about a health issue, which I was.
Yeah.
Members shared my expenses. There were 0 problems. And let me tell you, having people pray with you when you call in, and it's just what you need. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling people. People love Medishare and saving tons of money. The typical family, I'm fond of saying, could save $500 a month.
I am so thankful for Medishare. It's so different. And I mean different in a very, very good way, Brant.
It is a good different. Call right now. They're so easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 866-89-BIBLE. That's 866-89-BIBLE. 866-89-BIBLE.
I'm Total Health's Jay Johnson, the Falls and New Berlin. Seed oils, the #1 source of calories in American diets, developed as engine fuel in industrial lubricants, only ended up in the food supply for profit. Seed oils cause arthritis, heart disease, metabolic syndrome, stroke, type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, and chronic illness. Medical doctors prescribe dozens of pharmaceuticals for life to treat symptoms of those diseases. Why don't they tell you to stop consuming poison? I'll tell you why. You sick is profitable. At Total Health, we teach eliminating seed oils from your diet improves true health and how you feel. Total Health finds the root cause of your fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, sleeplessness, then works with you, the whole you, eliminating symptoms and the chronic disease causing those symptoms. It's not theory. Relativity equals expertise plus execution is true. Total Health's holistic practitioners utilize proven science to help you feel and truly be the most helpful and well you. TotalHealthInc.com. That's TotalHealthInc.com.
Do you have children under the age of 18, have more than $50,000 in assets? Without a proper estate plan, the government will create one for you. Learn more on Your Hometown Lawyer from Mielek Law, Saturday at 3 on WISN. Visit MielekLawWI.com. And remember, fail to plan to fail.
You've held on to that old jewelry for years. Maybe it was a class ring, a broken chain, or a silver flatware from your parents' home. It meant something once, and it still does. But now it could mean something new. A chance to turn those tucked away treasures into real value at Robert Hack Diamonds. With gold at an all-time high, there's never been a better time to bring in your unwanted gold, silver, or diamonds. At Robert Hack Diamonds, you'll sit down one-on-one in a relaxed, respectful setting. They'll walk you through your items carefully, from coins and jewelry to sterling tea sets and even dental gold, and make you a fair, honest cash offer. No pressure, just real people who understand that sometimes it's more than metal, it's memories. If in doubt, bring it in. You might be surprised at what it's worth. 64-plus year tradition of treating every single client with dignity, fairness, and professionalism. It's not just about gold, it's about trust. Robert Hack Diamonds, 146th and Greenfield Avenue in Brookfield and 76th and Layton in Greenfield.
From the road to the roof, S&K will fix your plumbing problems 24/7.
Smart speakers put WISN's programs as close as the sound of your voice. Tell Alexa, Google Home, or Siri on HomePod to play 1130 WISN on iHeartRadio and listen to Milwaukee's best talk shows.
After years of suffering and bloodshed, the war in Gaza is over.
The world witnessing extraordinary scenes in Israel.
With God's help, it'll be the new beginning for an entire beautiful Middle East.
The first images of those 20 Israeli hostages turned over as family members cried and crowds by the tens of thousands erupted in applause.
This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it?
Yes, I can. What I can't believe is that 2 days later, nobody in the United States is talking about it. Wait, I absolutely can believe that, because we found a bunch of young Republicans on some Telegram chat making edgelord jokes about Hitler. And this, of course, is what our media needs to focus on, not, peace in the Middle East. Welcome back to the Dan O'Donnell Show, hour number 2. Let's kick it off with a chance for you to win $1,000 in our Fall Fortune Cash Contest. Word this hour, credit, CREDIT. Credit. You have got until 55 past the hour to go to our website and enter the keyword credit to enter the contest for this hour. $1,000 on the line, as it is each and every hour of each and every show. You want to get in touch with us, 414-799-1130 or DOD at iHeartMedia.com. Follow us on social media at Dan O'Donnell Show. Pretty much everywhere. Watch the show streaming live on social media, on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to the Dan O'Donnell Show on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to podcasts. Coming up at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, we get the latest on the federal government shutdown from Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden. But right now, it is time once again for the Daily Trump Day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
Trump just keeps winning.
It is a win for the administration.
It's also a big win for the United States.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Just about an hour and a half ago, President Trump held a joint news conference with FBI Director Kash Patel to talk about the precipitous drop in crime over this past summer as the president spearheaded a federal effort to crack down on illegal immigration as well as violent street crime.
Crime declined nearly 20% nationwide compared to the same period last year. And it was the safest and most peaceful summer in 2 decades. And honestly, we haven't really even gotten going yet. If we didn't have to fight all of these radical left governors, we could have had Chicago taken care of, as an example. They had, in a short period of time, 4,000 murders in Chicago. And we have to listen to this man stand up and say that we're bad people. And the people of Chicago are walking around with MAGA hats. You have women, beautiful black women, walking around with MAGA hats. Please let the president in, and we don't care how he does it.
The president certainly does have a way with words. He knows how to paint a visual. Big, beautiful black women wearing MAGA hats. I may have added the big in there. As a big, beautiful bill, big, beautiful black women. Beautiful black women wearing MAGA hats. That we don't care how the president cuts crime. I've maintained for a long time, by the way, that the president should go into Republican-controlled states with high crime, Democrat-controlled cities, such as Louisiana Louisiana, clean up a city like New Orleans, go on to the next violent city, and so on and so on and so on until it's only violent cities in Democrat-controlled states that are left. That summer program, by the way, appropriately called Operation Summer Heat.
The sweeping law enforcement effort known as Operation Summer Heat. We were in many cities that people didn't know about. We kept it a little quiet, and it had a big impact, and you'll hear that in a second. But over the past few months, FBI officers in all 50 states made crushing violent crime a top enforcement priority. And that's what they did, rounding up and arresting thousands of the most violent and dangerous criminals. And these are among the most dangerous and violent people in the world. They were allowed in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases they were allowed in by a very foolish, actually stupid, open border policy. Just anybody could have come in. They emptied out their jails, their prisons, their mental institutions. They emptied them into our country. And the people behind me have done an incredible job, because if we didn't have that administration, it would have been so much easier. They allowed millions of people in this country that shouldn't have been allowed, including over 11,000 murderers, half of whom murdered more than one person. And many of them are gone now, or they're put in prison because we don't want to have them come back. So we literally put them in our prison, which we don't want to do. But we bring them back to their countries.
President Trump took questions for the better part of an hour from reporters on such varied topics as Venezuela and the drug cartels being targeted now by CIA and naval action, the war in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the federal government shutdown, which is now in its 15th day. Earlier today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called on moderate Democrats to defy party leadership and vote with Republicans to reopen the government.
We call on the moderate Democrats in the Senate to be heroes. Be heroes. Break away from the hive of radicalism and do something for the American people, because we are starting to cut into muscle here. We believe that the shutdown may start costing the U.S. economy up to $15 billion a day. And this is a decision the Democrats are making. And one of the reasons that they are not being held to task is because the mainstream media is not coming at them the way they would have if the Republicans were willing to keep the government closed. It is a very simple decision. Mike Johnson passed a clean CR. Leader Thune has the clean CR. 3 Democrats have voted for it. And right here, right now, I am calling for the moderate Democrats to be heroes and reopen the government for the American people.
My guess is that they will not. Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson outlined just some of the ridiculous spending measures that Democrats want instead of a clean CR, or continuing resolution, that would only fund government at current levels.
Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counter proposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa, and $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that.
Thank you, Speaker Johnson. As much as I do care about the gay pride movement in the Balkans, I think the gay Balkans can probably fund their own movement. Thank you very much. That your daily Trump date. At the Supreme Court today, oral arguments in what is very likely to be the most significant political case in quite some time. It is a case out of Louisiana that seeks to essentially overturn the Voting Rights Act, which essentially violated, in my humble opinion, and I believe a majority of the Supreme Court's humble opinion, the principles of the 14th Amendment, as well as 10th Amendment state sovereignty, by allowing for racially gerrymandered congressional districts. Now, this is going to be a little dense. This is going to be, anytime I talk about redistricting stuff, folks, I know I am absolutely convinced I have the most intelligent audience in all of talk radio, in all of media, quite frankly. But this stuff can be insanely dense. So I'm going to beg your indulgence for just a second. It is unconstitutional to draw congressional district boundaries based on race because for a long period of time in the South, the Democrats who controlled the Reconstruction era demographics and redistricting, they would draw districts so that the black male voters, the freed slaves who by the 15th Amendment, were granted the right to vote. 13th Amendment freed them. 14th Amendment, the Emancipation Amendments, 13th, 14th, 15th, granted them citizenship, granted them the right to vote. And what Democrats did in response was to gerrymander districts where they knew that freed slaves comprised an overwhelming majority of people who lived in the area. If you think about it, you've got one plantation owner and his family, white people, and a whole bunch of freed slaves who oftentimes would stay on the plantation as freedmen, as sharecroppers, and they would continue to work on the plantation, but they would get a salary for it. They would be voting for Republicans. Democrats couldn't allow this, so they started aggressively gerrymandering based on race in order to dilute black voting power. In order to undo decades of this, the Voting Rights Act allowed for racial gerrymandering the other way. It allowed for majority-minority districts to be drawn so that black Americans would have representation in the Congress. Once again, basically everything that has to do with Reconstruction and voting rights, it was to dilute the power of the racist Democrats in the South. This is an inconvenient history for them, but it is absolutely their history. So I tried to rub their noses in it as much as humanly possible. Democrats were absolutely the party of slavery, the party of the Trail of Tears, the party of Reconstruction, the party of the Ku Klux Klan, the party that opposed women's suffrage, the party that opposed the end of the Jim Crow laws. They were the party that turned fire hoses on black protesters. They were the party that would not allow black school children to go to school without the federal government's intervention. Have I made my point? So to get around that, to undo that, the Voting Rights Act allowed for the possibility of majority black, majority Hispanic districts to ensure representation for minority populations. It was always unconstitutional. It was just sort of allowed because, I think incorrectly, it was allowed because we knew we needed to right a historical wrong. Well, why I think it was the wrong decision is because anytime you violate a constitutional principle, someone will take advantage. And sure enough, the Democrat Party did when it finally wised up and realized, hey, being racist is probably not going to be the best electoral strategy heading into the latter part of the 20th century. So we should probably embrace the new progressive movement that's boiling up and bubbling up in the North, the anti-war Vietnam movement, that sort of galvanized Democrats together. And then what happened, there's this myth, by the way, that all of the old racist Southern Democrats became Republicans. It's a lie. It's a lie. I actually debunked this about a decade ago, that there was this big party switch sometime in the 1960s or 1970s. No, all the old Dixiecrat Democrats died off, and the new generation of Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Jimmy Carter, they were college educated. They went to schools in the North. They were deeply enmeshed in the modern progressive far left neo-Marxist movement, and they abandoned and wholly rejected the politics of racism of the older Democrats. There's a grand total of one Dixiecrat racist Southern Democrat who became a Republican, and it was Strom Thurmond. That was it. That was the end of the list. What made the South Republican was what made pretty much everybody in the 1980s a Republican. Ronald Reagan. I mean, Ronald Reagan won first it was Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon in 1972 was a dominant force across the country because McGovern was so weak, and Nixon ran on a platform of law and order that in the turbulent 60s and early 1970s appealed to Americans who were just tired of leftists being deranged lunatics. In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan won 49 out of 50 states in 1984. Of course, people were going to, in the South, vote for him. Then guess what? When Bill Clinton and Al Gore ran in 92 and 96, Democrats won the South again. It wasn't until George W. Bush in 2000 and 2004 that the South pretty much permanently flipped over to Republicans. By then, all of the Dixiecrats were long retired, and many of them were dead. Okay, that's the end of my brief history lesson. The Voting Rights Act is a remnant of that era that the Supreme Court actually chipped away at in an earlier case about 2 years ago or so called Shelby Township. Now, 2 years ago, boy, I think that was 12 years ago. Yeah, 2013. The Supreme Court decided in Shelby County v. Holder that one section of the Voting Rights Act was unconstitutional because it was based on this outdated concept that we needed to undo the wrongs of segregation and that the country had moved on. So basically what was kind of decided from the 1960s straight through until now was that, yes, technically this is a constitutional violation. We are drawing districts based on race, but we need to do this because this country is just so racist that if we didn't, there was no chance that white Americans would ever vote for a black candidate. What was this known as the Harold Washington effect? Harold Washington was a candidate for, I forget what office, back in the 1980s. Yeah, that's right. He was Chicago mayor. Thank you very much. I was like, Illinois state representative? No, it was Chicago mayor. And he always polled very well, but then didn't win. And the Harold Washington effect was this idea that people would say that they wanted to vote for a black candidate, but then ultimately would not because of their innate racism. So they didn't want to sound racist, but when talking to a pollster, but in the privacy of the voting booth, that they could not bring themselves to cast a ballot for a black candidate. Well, none of this was real. In fact, the election of Barack Obama proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that a black candidate, if he is popular enough, can win any election, including President of the United States of America. So what the court ruled in Shelby Township or Shelby County was that this idea that we need to have racially gerrymandered districts is based on the outdated notion that America is racist and that we need to give black people their own districts. Otherwise, they could never possibly get any black candidates elected. I regret to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that at oral arguments, KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, embarrassed herself again in quite possibly, frankly, folks, you're going to just have to hear it to believe it. I can't even do it justice. What she compared black voters to should be frankly insulting to everybody. Coming up in 3 minutes, we are going to get into this. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this.
From the Lynch GM Superstore in Burlington, Total Traffic Center.
Crash 94 eastbound before Hawley blocks the left lane. You got another in the westbound lanes at 25th, also blocking the left lane. In Waukesha, Oakdale, southbound shut down Les Paul Parkway to River Point Boulevard with an accident. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest Total Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Believe it or not, it's been 6 months since tax day. It's time to start taking a look at your plan. Fortunately, we're still in a window of time where you can review, strategize, and make many changes to your 2025 tax plan. But the days are going by quickly. The team here at Annex Wealth Management can help. Our tax and retirement specialists can review your goals and your current situation and walk through options that might build confidence on where you're headed. Contact Annex Wealth Management today.
Hey, Wisconsin, Jerry Bott here. When you're shopping for a new vehicle, it's common for uneasiness to set in. Am I getting the best deal? Am I getting what I'm paying for? At Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac, those questions just melt away. Holiday is proudly staffed by very nice, straight-shooting automotive professionals who are refreshingly direct and completely transparent. I'm a fan of that, and you will be too.
Gear up now during the truck season sale at Holiday in Fond du Lac and get more truck or SUV for your buck, more for your trade, and enjoy vehicle shopping that's fun, simple, and pressure-free. Stack enticing offers on top of Holiday's low simplified price on a new Chevrolet, Buick, or GMC, and check out the deep model year-end savings on remaining 2025s. With the weather right and fall trips ahead, the time is right to find yours and discover the difference during the truck season sale on now at Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac and at holidaygm.com.
It's worth the trip.
For superior carpet cleaning, hire a company with over 75 years of experience that will get the job done right the first time. Always clean, always on time. Edelman.
Edelman Carpet, Furniture, and Drapery Cleaning.
It's Edelman again. Edelman. For more information about contests on News Talk 1130 WISN, go to newstalk1130.com/rules. Make News Talk 1130 WISN your #1 preset on our free iHeartRadio app, powered by Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
Injured?
Remember, one call, that's all.
Stay informed all day, every day on News Talk 1130 WISN. This is where sycophants and chills are shunned, and commitment to the unvarnished truth is sustained. Just one reason that this is Wisconsin's most listened to radio station. News Talk 1130 WISN.
Classical conservatism, contemporary style. It is the Dan O'Donnell Show. Welcome back to it. What is the biggest problem with DEI or affirmative action? It is invariably the innate racism in presupposing that somebody based on nothing other than the color of their skin needs an additional boost, that they are somehow less qualified, that they are somehow less mentally able to compete on an even playing field with someone of a different race. There is just no way to get around that fundamental presupposition. When it came to the Supreme Court's oral arguments today, someone who is appointed to the United States Supreme Court based on DEI principles, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, whose primary qualification to President Biden was fulfilling a promise that he would nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court, made one of the most unfortunate comparisons that I think I have ever heard. And honestly, I'm not even sure she realized what she was saying. The Supreme Court today heard oral arguments on a case that seeks to overturn the Voting Rights Act that permits racially gerrymandered congressional districts. Since the act was enacted, Democrats have used it to essentially draw themselves permanent majority districts by taking advantage of the fact that black voters have a tendency to vote somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% Democrat. If the Voting Rights Act is overturned, as many court observers believe it will be, Democrats could instantly lose at least 18 to 19 seats in the House of Representatives. That is a very distinct possibility. No Democrat wants this to happen. Now, the argument for these minority-majority districts, or majority-minority district, majority Black, majority Hispanic districts, is that we need to ensure that Black voters are able to cast their ballots for the candidates of their choice. Now, that also has a rather unfortunate presupposition into it, doesn't it? That the only candidate a Black voter could possibly want is a Black candidate, right? Well, a whole ton of them voted for an orange candidate this past November, right? President Trump won historic numbers of Black voters. What Ketanji Brown Jackson said at oral arguments today made me shake my head in disbelief. She said, Black voters are essentially like the disabled. And just as we have special accommodations in the Disabilities, the Americans with Disabilities Act, so too do we need to make special accommodations for Black voters, because when it comes to doing the same thing that every other American who's at least 18 years old can do, vote, Black people are quite literally disabled.
Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled. In fact, we use the word disable in Milligan. We say that's a way in which you see that these processes are not equally open.
In other words, Black voters are disabled when it comes to their access to the polls. We see this same argument, folks, every time the issue of voter ID comes up. That, well, Black people couldn't possibly be expected to get a photo ID. Are you? What? This is putting an undue burden on Black voters. How? There's a presupposition, and a rather racist one, that Black people can't get to a DMV. Black people can't pass a driver's test. Black people don't have the exact same thing in their wallet that white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, Pacific Islander people have, that you need to do pretty much anything in life. I had to pick up a prescription for my son yesterday after the show. I stopped off at a CVS pharmacy, and there were a couple of prescriptions. I had to show a photo ID to prove that I was the father of the child that I was picking up medicine for. Trying to think what else I needed to show. I was just on a flight to Austin, Texas. I had to show my photo ID, my real ID, to get past security. Are you telling me that Black people can't fly? This coming from a justice of the Supreme Court who ostensibly would know better than to compare an entire race of voters to the disabled. The comparison she was trying to make is to say, look, special accommodations were made that might not necessarily otherwise be constitutional in the strictest interpretation of the law, because we understand that people who are in wheelchairs need to have ramps. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to get into a building. We just sort of understand that, right? Is there a special door that black people can't figure out how to push to get into a polling place? The comparison is as ludicrous as it is insulting. Now, watch, there is going to be practically no coverage of this. This is starting to gain traction in conservative circles, what Justice Jackson said. There will be no mainstream coverage of this at all. It will be buried because it's yet another example of Justice Jackson just proving that she is in way over her head. In fact, the best comment I saw on X today was from the author Stephen L. Miller, great conservative writer, not the Stephen Miller from the White House. He said, "I want cameras in the Supreme Court just so I can see Samuel Alito's face every time Ketanji Brown Jackson opens her mouth." You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show. What was the Wisconsin legislature focused on instead of the Charlie Kirk resolution? We discuss next.
The next generation is here. You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show.
Now, here's traffic from Tri-City National Bank, your hometown bank. Call the Tri-City Total Traffic Tip Line at 414-944-5111.
94 eastbound crash before Hawley has now been moved off to the right shoulder. Westbound crash at 25th has been cleared. Southbound on Brewers Boulevard, just south of 94, you got a stalled vehicle blocking the left lane. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Grand Appliance. Shop the 95th anniversary sale at Grand Appliance for unbeatable prices and exclusive savings on top appliance brands like GE Cafe and more. Visit grandappliance.com or your local Grand showroom for complete details. That's Grand Appliance, appliance experts since 1930.
Hey, it's Vicki McKenna for Byrna, the compact kinetic self-defense tool you've been hearing me talk about. Crime in our cities is out of control. There are not enough cops. Too many DAs who won't prosecute. And so now more than ever, you need to practice self-defense. And if you can't or you don't want to get your CCL and carry a gun, that's where Byrna comes in. Byrna's new compact launcher is the perfect way to conceal anywhere and everywhere. It is small, lightweight, super easy to hide. It's equipped with less lethal kinetic ammunition designed to incapacitate your attacker for up to 40 minutes, even from a distance. So it's perfect anywhere you go. You might encounter a threat of any kind, human or animal. And if you're sending your kids off to college this fall, they need one too. So does your elderly mom or dad. Byrna requires no background checks, can be shipped directly to your door, and it's trusted by hundreds of police departments across the country. Visit Byrna.com today to find the right launcher for you. That's BYRNA.com.
Hi, it's Rob Radisky here, a veteran designer at Wisconsin Kitchen Mart, and we're inviting you to come take a look at the fully built kitchens and baths in our sprawling 18,000 square foot showroom. It's truly one of a kind, and while showcasing the special attention to detail we put into our work as designers, this enormous showroom gives you the opportunity to envision real possibilities for your home. For almost 75 years, the dedicated team at Wisconsin Kitchen Mart has created kitchen and bathroom remodels that have set us apart as the best. We create kitchens that balance style and efficiency. The same goes for bathrooms too. See the full displays in our 18,000 square foot showroom. With our wide selection of flooring, Play-Doh custom cabinetry, appliances, and countertops, you'll get everything you need in one spot. For a free consult and more info, visit wisconsinkitchenmart.com or visit our showroom to see for yourself. Higher design, higher style, higher Wisconsin Kitchen Mart.
Five Corners is celebrating extra savings with Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram. Drive into fall event. Yes, we're announcing big fall savings and big dollars for your trade. Roll with a new Ram and get up to $15,000 off on select models or get 0% for 72 months. This is a savings home run. New Jeep Grand Cherokee is another big hit with big savings up to $7,000 off. New Chrysler Pacifica up to $8,000 off. Swing into Five Corners today and save. Need service? We deliver with outstanding service technicians and 40 service bays. Highway 60 Cedarburg. Financing is to approved credit and subject to down payment. Incentives are on select models.
When starting a new home project, the first step is the hardest to take. Hi, Colleen here with Tri-County Contracting. And with Tri-County Contracting, the first step is super easy. Go to tricountycontractingwi.com. You can fill out a short form requesting a free estimate. Amanda will give you a call and schedule a no-pressure appointment with you. Whether it's roofing, siding, windows, or all of the above, we have you covered. If you are looking for an even faster roof price, we also have our instant roof quote button. Name, address, and email address. address, and you have your price on the spot. Easy first step. Then, all the steps after that, we'll take care of those for you. Getting you an easy-to-read, clear proposal quickly comes next. Then we can help you pick colors using our showroom or project map on our website. We pull the permits, we take care of materials and disposal. Our trained and specialized crews and project managers take care of all the install and cleanup. For you, it's as easy as one step, and that step is easy. Worry-free roofing, siding, and windows. Tri-County Contracting.
Imagine your home totally organized. At Closets by Design, we specialize in providing affordable, custom-built storage solutions with built-ins and beyond. From walk-in closets to entertainment centers, our experienced designers work within your budget to design a solution fit perfectly to your needs. Get 40% off plus an additional 15% with 18-month financing. Visit closetsbydesign.com or call 1-800-BY-DESIGN to get started. Let's get organized together.
Hey, Doc, nice office. Quick question. If you had to choose, would you give yourself a root canal or run payroll?
Run payroll, no question.
Seriously? Have you run payroll before?
Paying my team with Gusto couldn't be easier. Gusto gives me unlimited payroll runs, next day direct deposits, and automatically files my taxes. Saves me time.
Wow, that's nice.
Over here, Doc. I want payroll too.
Choose payroll without the pain. Visit gusto.com/radio to sign up for free.
Injured? Call Gruber Law.
One call, that's all. Sports season is in high gear, and iHeartRadio's got it all. The NFL.
It's a touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Baseball postseason.
Tail time in game one.
College football, the NHL, and the NBA is about to tip off. It's all right at your fingertips on the iHeart app with play-by-play podcasts and local stations where you can join the conversation.
I agree with the last caller. We got to be done with that guy.
Join the millions who are already doing it. Open the free iHeartRadio app now. Sports on iHeartRadio, where fans live it.
Committed to covering the important stories and issues that the rest of the media won't touch. This is Wisconsin's most listened to radio station. News Talk 1130, WISN.
A tour de force of truth here on the Dan O'Donnell Show. The truth about the Wisconsin State Legislative Democrats is that they will only focus on the issues that really matter to Wisconsin. Kalen Haywood stood up and said he was not going to support the resolution honoring the life of Charlie Kirk because Charlie did nothing for Wisconsin. He had no ties for Wisconsin, and this was just political posturing. Do you know what Democrats actually tried to force? Legislation to demand the release of the Epstein files. Here's Representative Lee Snodgrass.
Jeffrey Epstein trafficked, raped, victimized, and harmed children and women, and rich and powerful and influential people knew it and covered it up. These women deserve justice, and I simply can't imagine that there's a person in this room who would vote against a resolution to pressure our congressional representatives to finally release those files.
Assembly Majority Leader Tyler August was all of us reacting to that insanity.
This has got to be one of the more embarrassing days for the Assembly minority that I've seen in a really, really long time. And that's saying something because there's been a lot of embarrassing days.
Kudos to you, Representative August, for saying what we were all thinking. We want to force the release of the Epstein files. Do you know what the Epstein files are that they're talking about? Just honestly, should I open up the phone lines to Democrats? Tell me what specific Epstein files do you want released that haven't been released? Do you know how many files have actually been released on Jeffrey Epstein? Do you know how many pages of documents have already been released? Do you know what has not yet been released? Seriously. When we talk, let's define our terms here. What are the Epstein files? They're talking about grand jury depositions. Normally, unless there is grand jury proceedings are always kept secret. That includes depositions, that includes who's on the grand jury, that includes when they're meeting. This is done to preserve the integrity of the fact-finding process, so that there needs to be a compelling interest, like an ultra compelling interest, that would allow for the release of any grand jury material. And that includes depositions that grand jurors might see when determining whether or not to indict, to bring charges against somebody in a given case. This is also done to protect someone who, say, a grand jury does not indict, or who later is found not guilty at trial, or later has charges against them dropped. Because if grand jury material is released, obviously that material is presented to the grand jury by prosecutors to try to get them to indict, to try to. So it is evidence that is used essentially by one side in order to secure charges. It is therefore not inherently biased against the defendant, but because of the grand jury process, it is just sort of how it works. The grand jury depositions of alleged Jeffrey Epstein victims are not able to be released to protect their anonymity. Many of them were deposed as Jane Does. It is also not a compelling government interest because we want to hurt Donald Trump. Because we think that some of those girls said Donald Trump was getting sexual favors from Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, there is no compelling evidence that Donald Trump had any tie to Jeffrey Epstein after they had a falling out in the early 2000s about a property that both wanted to buy, and I believe Epstein ultimately got. Trump said that he stopped talking to Epstein because he could sense that something was off with him. That's probably not true. I think the real story why they just stopped all contact, near as anyone can tell, is that Trump was ticked off that Epstein beat him to get this property. He beat him on a deal. There is no evidence that there is not one person who has said Donald Trump did anything untoward. Even Virginia Giuffre, formerly Virginia Roberts, who accused Prince, which one? Prince Andrew. So I almost said Prince Philip. That guy was so loyal to his queen. There's no way he would have. Prince Philip was a stand-up dude. I did like me some Prince Philip. Andrew was credibly accused by Virginia Giuffre, who, yes, took her own life about a year ago or so, or maybe it was this year. I don't even remember. The family did accept, by the way, the inquest findings that it was a suicide. They said she had battled depression and mental illness for quite some time. She had said, look, if I ever kill myself, it wasn't actually a suicide, that powerful forces are trying to shut me up. No, she had already talked. She implicated Alan Dershowitz. She implicated Bill Richardson, George Mitchell, obviously Prince Andrew, never Donald Trump. And she said, no, I never even saw Donald Trump. This past April 25th is when she died. Thank you, producer Eric. Yeah, it was this past April 25th. There's never been any sort of implication there. But what is the reason Democrats have since July been obsessed with this? It's once again to make the claim that Donald Trump isn't merely wrong on the issues or a bad president or any of the normal political attacks that throughout much of our history we have leveled against political opponents. He is a unique evil who, along with his billionaire buddies, has been preying on innocent children. And look, folks, the right is not immune from that sort of conspiracy mongering, that there is this secret global cabal of pedophiles that is drinking children's blood and sacrificing innocent girls to Moloch. I've been hearing about this nonsense since at least 2019. The only evidence that exists is that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking girls for himself. And yes, was he showing off to his wealthy and powerful friends that he had all these young girls as massage artists and, stewardesses on his Lolita Express? Yeah, absolutely. Is it very likely that at some point, some of his guests to Epstein Island were engaging in sexual activity with girls who might or might not have been underage? Yeah, of course it is. I'm not stupid. I'm not denying the obvious. But I'm also following the evidence and saying there is no client list. There is no little black book. There is no, Bill Clinton say, well, I'll take the redhead for the flight on the 21st, but I'd like 2 blondes to massage me for the flight on December 5th. No, there was nothing like that. It was just girls happened to be around at Epstein's parties, and that's part of the reason that he was popular. But what Democrats are again trying to do is not just level a political attack at Trump and Republicans, but to say that they are some sort of unique super evil that must be stopped by any means necessary. It is, again, this sort of apocalyptic rhetoric that has the potential to foment violence.
From the Lynch Chevrolet of Kenosha Total Traffic Center.
Northbound 43 got delays just north of the Marquette interchange up to North Avenue. Southbound delays in pockets between Keefe and the Marquette. Your delays get heaviest starting at North. I'm Kevin Henry, and that's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by ARR Recycling in Waukesha and West Dallas.
Recycling pays. Go to ARR Recycles with your recyclable copper, brass, lead, steel, or aluminum and get cash. Visit them at ARR1938.com or stop into their West Dallas or Waukesha location. ARR Recycles since 1938.
The only real estate agent I trust here in Milwaukee is Justin Hoffman with RE/MAX Lakeside. Now, thanks for joining me today. The biggest fear for any home seller is the agent that plants a for sale sign in their yard and then just disappears. How important and consistent would you say communication is between both your team and your client's team?
Yeah, Sean, in business, it's everything. Here, Team Hoffman, we believe consistent, clear communication builds trust, keeps everyone on the same page, and most importantly, eliminates surprise. From the very first call all the way through closing, you're never going to wonder where things stand. You're going to hear from us every week because we keep you informed every step of the way. Communication isn't just important, it's the foundation of our success.
All right, thanks for keeping us up to date. Just go to wihomeeval.com. That's wihomeeval.com. Or just Google Team Hoffman and check out over 700 5-star reviews.
Bob from Redefined Realty here. I'd written my own ads for 20 years. Creative genius. Here. Same. Well, Inet's ads and 100 other businesses' ads. Writing your own ads, you kind of get stuck repeating the same message. Different words, but the same perspective. Before introducing Easy Home Bidder, Bob came to Inet to brand his brainchild, MLS Listing Backed by Auction. It's brilliant. MLS guarantees the home is found. Auction guarantees the highest sale price. Period. Inet branded it, wrote our story, knocked our marketing out of the park. When you think of selling your home, you know MLS and auction together is the right choice. Redefined also benefits from unparalleled radio buying power, industry influence, and extracurricular enhancement of being part of the Inet community. More than 1,000 businesses working together for each other's successes. Websites, branding, design, video, and radio. Inet is improving the economy one business at a time. InetDishWeb.com. CreativeGeniusMarketing.com. Buyers, sellers, real estate for winners. RedefinedRealty.com.
Hey, Dan O'Donnell from Mander Collision and Glass, now with 7 locations to serve you across the greater Milwaukee area. Start your repair right now at ManderCollision.com. Mander truly is the best decision after a collision.
I'm Victor Harding. If you or someone you love is injured, I highly recommend Best Lawyers Complex Litigation Lawyer of the Year, Warshevsky's Frank Cravello.
Frank here. If you're injured, the quality of your attorney and law firm will likely have greater impact on the compensation
you receive than even the facts of your case. I highly recommend Best Lawyers Product Liability Attorney of the Year, Warshawski's Victor Harding.
The quality of your attorney and law firm are huge factors in the compensation injured Wisconsinites receive. Injured?
It is about the money.
Warshawski.com.
A 4-day winter power outage is what had me buying an awesome Generac generator, and I've been worry-free ever since. Get a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from the #1 Generac dealer, Generator Supercenter. Go to GeneratorSupercenterofLakeCountry.com.
You've held on to that old jewelry for years. Maybe it was a class ring, a broken chain, or a silver flatware from your parents' home. It meant something once, and it still does. But now it could mean something new. A chance to turn those tucked away treasures into real value at Robert Hack Diamonds. With gold at an all-time high, there's never been a better time to bring in your unwanted gold, silver, or diamonds. At Robert Hack Diamonds, you'll sit down one-on-one in a relaxed, respectful setting. They'll walk you through your items carefully, from coins and jewelry to sterling tea sets and even dental gold, and make you a fair, honest cash offer. No pressure, just real people who understand that sometimes it's more than metal, it's memories. If in doubt, bring it in. You might be surprised at what it's worth. 64-plus year tradition of treating every single client with dignity, fairness, and professionalism. It's not just about gold, it's about trust. Robert Hack Diamonds, 146th and Greenfield Avenue in Brookfield and 76th and Layton in Greenfield.
Your home cleaning friend, it's Edelman again. Edelman.
24/7 wherever they are. WISN broadcasts are a powerful platform, but there's so much more. WISN's online digital tools are completely customizable, so you can reach your ideal customer through the iHeart app or by using software that actually finds your customers at a specific location or event. These tools are precise, efficient, measurable marketing weapons that you need to use. Combine the power and clout of WISN's broadcast and digital platforms right now. Go to newstalk1130.com, keyword digital.
Coming up after the top of the hour news, another chance to win $1,000 in our Full Fortune Cash Contest. Also, we are joined by the always entertaining and outspoken and informative Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden, great friend of the Dan O'Donnell Show. Right now, though, it is time to name our unsung hero of the day. Today's unsung hero of the day is Brookfield East senior golfer Peyton Hagen. She won the state WIAA girls golf tournament and blew away the all-time record. The tournament was held at University Ridge Golf Course on Monday and Tuesday, and after the first round, she built upon a 5-under par score of 67 that had her leading the field by 4 strokes. Yesterday, she shot 5 birdies on the back 9 to round out her tournament with a 7-under par 65 after 2 runner-up finishes and 3 years of threatening for a title prior to her senior campaign. Hagen was well in command down the stretch, with her closest competitors unable to keep pace with a record-breaking performance. This from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I checked the standings one more time, she said, after everyone was done, and after that I was kind of left alone, like, I've got to play 6 more holes of my game and finish strong. I wasn't really going for anything after that. I was kind of more trying to be a conservative player after that. If that is her conservative performance, I would hate to see what it looks like when she is going for a low score. If you can believe this, she set the all-time record by 6 strokes, a record that's set, that has held since 2008. A 138. She had a 132. Absolutely unbelievable. In the 55-year history of the WIAA State Girls Golf Tournament, Hagen now has 2 of the 4 best 36-hole scores. Believe it or not, she tied the all-time record last year at 138, but it wasn't good enough to win state because another girl beat her in a playoff. Imagine that. You shot better than every girl in the history of the state of Wisconsin, save for 2, and one of them happened to beat you in a playoff. Well, this year there was no doubt about it. She is a state champion. She is a testament to dedication and playing through heartbreak and adversity and bouncing back even stronger for her senior year. Peyton Hagen of Brookfield East is your unsung hero of the day. Just by way of comparison, I was out with some friends and played a quick 9 at Morningstar today. Obviously, my favorite golf course. The Fruchis just do an incredible job. You'll hear them on the Morningstar Golfers show on the weekend on WISN. I thought I had a pretty good round. I shot a 4 over 40. And I was very happy with that. And yes, I did take a breakfast ball. Okay. Peyton Hagen, she shot 7 under par as a high school senior. That just blows my mind. I am truly amazed at great golfers. All right, we will be back in just a second with Derek Van Orden right here on the Dan O'Donnell Show.
All programs